all of you doing? I hope you're all staying at home as much as possible. Welcome to this B&N, Barnes & Noble Events Live, with yours truly, Harlan Coben, author of, I don't know, a lot of books by now, 30-something. I think it's 32, someone was telling me. So the new book that's out, look at this, I got props, is The Boy from the Woods. That's the latest. It just came out 3 weeks ago. I was all set to go on tour and visit a number of Barnes and Nobles across the country, and of course it got canceled. I miss seeing all of you. I'm actually one of the few authors who really does enjoy going on book tour. I sit alone in this room a lot, so to get out and be able to see you and hang with you guys for a bit, I kind of like it. So I'm one of the many things, of course, I'm sad about missing right now. I'm also, another book of mine you may have heard of is right now is The Stranger, which is a television series on Netflix. See, and I have two other shows on Netflix for the Americans, or for everybody. Gets Safe and The Stranger. So The Stranger, which is the book, and Safe are both on Netflix right now. And in the U.S., you have a third one called The Five. If you put my name in your search list, Harlan Coben, or if you put netflix.com/Harlan Coben, you'll see all the shows that are currently on. The next one, which I haven't really announced too much yet, is going to be The Woods. Not Boy from the Woods, The Woods, which will be out fairly soon. I can't say anything much more than that on Netflix as well. And I hope you're all enjoying that. So without further ado, do we have some questions I would be happy to answer? If not, I'll keep talking until some start popping up. This is sort of my office. You're probably wondering about the color of that paint back there because it used to be my daughter's bedroom. And I just am too lazy to change it right now. So that first question's popped up. So let's go with that. The first question is what was the inspiration for The Boy from the Woods? I'll try to tell you a little bit about how I come up with ideas. I know a lot of you are under quarantine right now, like I am, under lockdown, haven't been out of the house or doing very much. And maybe you're actually thinking of writing. First of all, it's very, very difficult to produce right now. I've been a writer for a long time, and I'm having trouble getting pages done. But how did I come up with the idea for The Boy from the Woods? How do I come up with ideas in general? An idea always starts for me with a what if. I walk around kind of my whole life asking, well, what if this? What if that? And that sounds weird, but my mind kind of wanders. So the way this book came about is one day I was taking a hike through the woods of New Jersey. I know you think New Jersey woods, but we actually have the Ramapo Mountains here, which are part of the Appalachians. That's where this book takes place. And as I'm hiking through the woods, I'm bored because I don't like hiking all that much. I'm looking for a coffee shop or a bookstore to browse through or some window shopping to get done, something. And after a while, a tree's a tree. And my mind starts to wander. And I spotted a boy, I'd say around 6 years old. And I start to think, what if? What if this boy just came out of the woods right now? And he claimed he knew no life with parents or anything like that. He's always lived in the woods. He broke into houses to feed himself. He found ways of feeding himself off the land, finding shelter at night. He has no memory of parents. He has no memory of any life before living in those woods, and thinks he kind of raised himself living there like a feral kind of a kid. And what if 30 years pass, he's grown up, and he still doesn't know who his parents are, how he got there, his unique skills, because he's just a different kind of a cat because of how he grew up. And now another kid goes missing in the woods. And that's sort of the opening beat of The Boy from the Woods. It's not a book. That's not even barely an idea. But that's that first seed that drops into the ground that you play around with until something starts to grow from that. So first question was, what was the inspiration for The Boy from the Woods? I'll give you another quick example of one to give you, well, The Stranger. The Stranger, which a lot of you have maybe seen on Netflix, started two different ways. One is I read about a website that helps you fake your pregnancy. That sounds so messed up, doesn't it? But when we're done here, or open up another window and Google search fake pregnancy, and you'll see websites pop up that sell fake bellies, They sell fake sonograms. They sell fake pregnancy tests. No matter what you put on it, it'll come out positive. It just keeps going like that. So I said, wow, that's messed up. What can I do with that with a story? And that becomes the first scene in The Stranger, when the stranger walks up to a man and says, "You didn't have to stay married to her." Well, what are you talking about? She wasn't really pregnant. She was faking a pregnancy, and you didn't have to stay married to her. Just drops this bomb and leaves. And it got me thinking: when you do something like that on the internet, when you buy something like a fake pregnancy thing, you think you're completely anonymous, but of course you're not. There's a human being behind that transaction. What if? What if a stranger went around telling people those secrets? What if a stranger kept dropping bombs on people's lives? And that became the origin for the book, The Stranger and Boy from the Woods, backwards. And Netflix series came out, I think, about a month or two ago now. Late January, it came out. It's been a real thrill to watch everybody's reaction to the show. And let's see, the next question, we have another question just popped up. What's my writing process like? Any rituals, favorite workspaces, etc.? That's a really good question. I think my answer is different than anybody else's, most other writers. My routine is not to really have a routine. This is my office here. It doesn't look great, does it? I mean, I open the windows during the day, but it'll probably get too reflecty if I do that. But most of the time, especially when I was a little bit younger, I went out and wrote. I would go to coffee shops or libraries or wherever. My method of writing is not to have a method. My idea is to do whatever's working until it stops working. So if I find a coffee shop that works going at 8 a.m., I would do that. And I would keep doing that until it stopped working. And then I would try to find some other place that would work. So I'll give you two quick examples. One, for a while, I took this Uber one day into New York City. I live in New Jersey, which is about a half hour from New York City. And I felt all guilty about it. I had to sort of defend my position, like, if by the time I pay for parking, this is actually making sense. But I felt guilty sitting in the back. So I started to write in the back of an Uber. And I wrote really well. So for 3 weeks, I took Ubers everywhere I went. And I wrote in the back of them. There was a supermarket not far from here that had like a little coffee shop, tables right next to the deli counter. And for some reason, I was writing really well there. Maybe because something about that white noise that was working for me. So for like several months, I came home smelling like olive loaf. Whatever gets you to write is good. Whatever doesn't get you to write is bad. I know how obvious that sounds, but it really is the truth. The key to writing is to write. Don't let anything paralyze you. Fear is going to paralyze you. I call it the "you suck" fear. And here I've written 32 books, sold however many copies, been in however many languages, and still, all of the time, there's that fear that this really sucks. You better stop now. Key is to write through that, because you can always go through and try something new and rewrite. Rewriting is very, very important. Quickly. Every writer I know rewrites. No writer I know gets it right the first time. Well, there's that one guy, but we all hate him. You know that guy? Right. Don't be that guy. Most of the books I rewrite 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I rewrite as I write. So I don't necessarily write, let's see if I can do this right, like this in a straight line. I'll go like this, maybe across the screen better, not this. I kind of write like this, where each day I go back and I reread what I did the day before. It's like kind of getting a running start. And then every 75 pages or so, I go all the way back to the beginning and rewrite it again. So by the time I finish the book, the beginning's probably been rewritten 8, 9, 10 times already. That's really key. You got to let yourself be free to suck. So don't worry if that first draft sucks. Don't worry. You're going to fix it. You're not going to show it to anybody. No one's going to see it. No one's going to judge you on it. You don't get to see my first drafts. All right. Do we have another question? Okay, I'm getting something saying fan question coming up. I'm losing this thing. Jenna, how did you develop the character of Wilde? Is he a character you've been holding onto for Wilde? In case you don't know, Wilde is the lead character in The Boy from the Woods. He is the boy from the woods. Thanks for the question, Jenna. You know, I've had 30-something books. 11 of them have featured the same guy. So I've had a lot of different leads, and I'm always trying to do something different. Most of my leads are fairly gregarious guys. Myron never shuts up for a second, for example. I wanted a guy who, and they have close family ties. They have big families. They're raising kids, all of that. Wilde's the opposite. Because of the way he was brought up, the fact that the first 6 to 8 years of his life, we don't really know how old he is. He doesn't know how old he is. Was spent in the woods with no parents, no one to trust or depend on. He has trouble connecting to people. Those he does, he connects to with great ferociousness, great ferocity, if you will. And I wanted to give him that. So he's a little bit feral, but also this gives him wonderful dynamics. He can shut things out. He has a great knowledge of what it takes to survive. And so I kind of put all this together. But the key to make Wilde come alive for me is when I gave him a tragic past, a tragedy in his past that he shares with a 70-year-old woman named Hester Crimstein, who's been in a number of my books. And they're kind of a team. So it's weird, this 35-year-old guy who hangs out in the woods and a loud 70-year-old lawyer from New York City are teaming up here. And once they teamed up and once I found their shared tragedy, why they connect to one another, the book really started to come to life for me, and I think it will for the readers as well. I've been so pleased with the reaction to this. It was a tough time, of course, to have a book come out around now, but then I'm getting so many messages saying, you know, for the hours I'm reading it, I forget what's going on. I forget I'm in quarantine. I just disappear and spend a little bit of time with the boy. There's a few things quite as satisfying as that for a writer. So thanks very much for the question. Thank you. Like my coffee mug? Somebody sent me the stranger coffee mug. Okay. I love the way you incorporate sports into stories. What sports did you play as a kid? You haven't done a sports book in a while. For those who read my early Myron Bolitar novels, he was a sports agent, so they dealt with it. I played basketball. I would stand up and let you see, but I'm 6'4", 225. I played for high school, and I played in college, in Amherst College. I am proud to say I'm in the New England Basketball Hall of Fame. But I will be honest with you. I'm put in what they call the scholar athlete category, which I think is a category for people who were neither. So, but I did play college basketball, and I did love the game. And so I decided to create a character who did that, who played basketball much better than I was. Myron is better than me in most ways, but then couldn't quite, because, you know, after he gets the first round draft pick, he gets injured in his very first preseason game and never gets to play. And that tragedy hangs over him for a lot in the beginning of the series. If you start the Myron series, when I started with a book called Deal Breaker, Myron's about 27 or 28. The most recent one, Home, he's in his mid-40s. So it's been really interesting and fun to grow and change with him. As I've grown and changed in age too. I just didn't have an interest in keeping it stagnant. It's why I would never maintain a series for a really long time. I've never been interested in the series where the character doesn't age or change. I mean, I loved them, reading them when I was a kid. Hercule Poirot or Sherlock Holmes are these guys who are always the same age. For me, I wanted Myron to grow and change and age with me. I'm aging a little faster than Myron, but you get my point. And so each Myron novel is something really very strong and personal in his life. So there has to be a limit to how many I can possibly have. By the way, this might interest you. This is the British copy. And I often get the question, why do the different countries do different covers? And the answer is, I don't really know. They never like what the other one does. It's very much like, but whichever one comes first. Like, you know, I'll say, oh, isn't this cover great? And I'll send it to my British one, like, nah, and the British one, I'll say, nah. And it'll be the same in you know, I think it's in, you know, there's 44 languages the book is in. And almost every one of them will do a different cover that they claim works for their market. So I don't know. If you're an American, do you like this one better? If you're British, do you like this one better? You got me. All right. What's our next question here? Why did the Netflix series take place in England rather than the U.S.? Well, they don't. Some take place in England. The next one was going to take place in Poland. The one after that, which is The Woods. The one after that, The Innocent, takes place in Spain. I've done 2 series also in France and a movie called Tell No One in France. I work better overseas. I've just had more success there. I've liked working with the people there. In the case of The Stranger, prop, The Stranger, Safe, and The Five, the 3 that are now on Netflix in America, at least, and Netflix, most of the world has The Stranger, all the world has Stranger and Safe. I found a production company called Red Productions, and I have had the same, what we call the core 4. It's been Nicholas Schindler, Danny Brocklehurst as our head writer, and Richard Fee. The 4 of us have worked together on 3 shows. I love working with them. I love the stuff that they make. The Red Productions also makes Happy Valley and Last Tango in Halifax and Queer as Folk and Scott and Bailey and Years. A lot of really great shows. And so I'm proud to be working with them, and it just works for me to put them there. I also, if you've read the books closely, or you've read Stranger and you've seen the series, you know, or saw Tell No One, which is a French movie that I made also with Guillaume Canet directing. I am not one who believes in being slavishly devoted to the text when you would adapt. In fact, I would argue the worst adaptations are the ones that are slavishly devoted to the text. A book is a book, and a TV series is a TV series. One's a visual medium, one I can be internal. So they have to be, and they should be different. I kind of like the challenge of having them in these foreign countries. And part of it is sort of like, it's kind of like you're a musician. And I wrote and sang this song, and now other cool creative artists are doing their own versions of them. And that's great. And I don't want their version to sound exactly like mine. I want it to be a pop version now, or a classical version, or in a foreign accent or something like that. I want that. And I think it makes the series stronger for me. Thanks for asking that question. Good question. Anybody else have one? What are some books that have inspired you as a reader and as a writer? It's interesting to use the word inspired, which is good. I get inspired by a lot of things. And I think the key for me is not just to be inspired by books. I've read a ton of books and I've loved them, and I've had a lot of authors who have meant a great deal to me. My favorite one is probably Philip Roth. Growing up, even though I don't really write much like him, but he's from my area and I've learned a lot from him. I learned a lot about suspense from my friend Mary Higgins Clark, who recently passed away. Just lived about 2 miles down the road here. We used to see each other quite frequently. I learned a lot from Robert B. Parker and his Spencer series. I can go on and on. But I've also learned that most of the inspiration comes when I get inspired. I get inspired by anything great because I want to give you that feeling. So like when I read a great book, I want to figure a way of giving you that experience, but not just a book. If I see an Edward Hopper painting, an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and I see, you think of anything that's great, that's what inspires me to try. A great movie, great TV show, great work of art, great anything inspires me to want to do better. I always want to do better for you. That has not changed. Every book, I convinced myself, maybe I'm wrong. I think The Boy from the Woods is my best book, right? But I'll forget that. I won't feel that way in a few weeks or a few months. I think The Stranger, The Five, Safe, and The Stranger, I'm proud of all 3 of them. I'm not one who runs away from my adaptations. But each time I want to get better. I want to find new ways of gripping you. Thanks for the question. What do we got next? From Stuart L. Are there any books that you have written that you would have ended differently if you wrote them now? I don't think so. There's no book, this is going to sound, I don't know what it's going to sound like. There's no book I look back on with regret. There's no book I say that wasn't my best work at the time. My first 2 early books I don't like very much, just because, but it's mostly because I was young. And so I didn't know what I was doing. Oh, that's interesting. So that's the light from the computer, which actually, I have my computer here, laptop here, and the computer actually have words on the screen. Because I was trying to write anyway. Geez, I forgot the question now. No, so I don't really look back and say, there's a snapshot of that time period. So recently, for the TV series, I've had to go back and read old books. Most recently, The Innocent, which is being made in Spain by a wonderful director named Oriol Paulo. If you haven't seen any of Oriol Paulo's movies, if you have Netflix, there's one called The Invisible Guest. And if you just put Oriol like the bird without an E, Paolo, in your search engine. You'll find it. But The Invisible Guest, The Body, and Mirage, all three great thrillers. And it's also starring Mario Casas, who's one of Spain's biggest stars, and Nora Garrido, who are just terrific. It's a terrific cast and a terrific show. I'm really proud of what they're doing. But I had to reread the book. I hadn't read The Innocent, I don't think, in at least 15 years. And as I'm reading it, there's things I'm like, I wish I could change that. And there's times even, I don't know, it's like, wow, where am I going with this? You forget after all these years, and I have a lot of twists and turns. But I don't think there's any that I would end differently. I work really hard on my endings. And in the end of the day, you really can't change them. I've tried a couple of times when we've done adaptations, thinking, I wonder if I could change. I can add to it. I can throw more things at the end. There's the ending of The Stranger shares a lot with the ending of the book, but there was more to it in the TV series. But I haven't yet changed an ending. All right, what do we got next? Do you ever work on more than one story at a time? I don't. I can work on a TV series. I can work on 3 or 4 TV series at a time. I can work on TV series and a book at the same time, but I can only work on one book or one story at a time. Once I'm in that book, I can't come up, if I come up with a great idea while I'm writing the book, it'll always end up in the book I'm writing now. It'll just change the book I'm writing now. It's maybe why some of my books you can claim are overstuffed. They have too much plot. They have too many twists. I rarely meet a twist I don't like. There's my weakness, okay? Deal with it. If you don't like it, it's only twists, I'm not your guy. But usually if I come up with something while I'm writing, it gets in that book. But I do have a file of ideas, small little things that I write down, but none of them are a book. When I finish a book, I'm like a boxer who just went the full distance. I threw every punch that I had, and I can't raise my arms even a little bit. I got nothing left. There's nothing ready for the next book. I have to go into, I got beaten up. I got to go hibernate for a while before I can start thinking of the next idea. So no, I guess some people can. I've never been able to do more than one story at a time. Even I've written maybe, 6 or 7 op-eds for different newspapers like Bloomberg and the New York Times. And even when I do those, I really, for the week or two, or sometimes it only takes a day or two that I work on those, I can't do my novels also. All right, what else? We're loving the book bending happening on social media. What would be some of your book recommendations, if any? I'm reading a great deal of stuff. I mostly get a lot of books from authors who are not yet published. I get advanced copies. Probably I get, I'm not exaggerating, not right now as many, but I probably get almost like 4 or 5 a week from authors who are hoping to get that little blurb on the front cover. So a couple that I'm looking forward to coming out soon. Janelle Brown has a new one called Pretty Things. That's really good. I just blurbed that, and you could look up Janelle's name. So that's one author. I'm trying to think of, I could give you the usual names. And the reason I always hesitate on this is I leave out a lot of people who I love and adore. And then someone will say, well, what about so-and-so? I'm like, oh yeah, I actually like that person more than the one I just mentioned. But I try to give people that maybe you haven't tried yet. I would recommend Attica Locke if you haven't tried her. Allison Galen is a very talented new writer she's kind of a writer's writer who I think a lot of people are starting to discover now. Lisa Scottolini and her daughter, Francine Sorelli, she has a new book out too. God, I can't remember the name of it, but you can look it up. Maybe Barnes Noble people can help me, and that's coming out, I think, in May. My friend Chris Bojalian, who I went to Amherst College with, he has a new book out called Red Lotus. We both came out on March 17th, so give a shout out for my pal Chris. And that's enough for right now. I'll think of some others as we're talking. Go ahead. What would you be if not a writer? Is this a setup question? Because I do a little bit of a rant. The truth is, this is the secret of being a writer, is that the answer is nothing good. This is the only talent that I have. I'm not good at anything else. If I showed you this desk, you would see that I'm completely disorganized. I am forgetful. I don't have very good work skills. I'm a mess, and I'm not particularly smart. This is the only thing I can do. And that fear that I couldn't be a writer is one of the things that makes me run back to the table to start writing again. Um, because what would I be if I wasn't a writer? I don't know. I'd have to get a real job. That terrifies me. Because I'm not good at anything else. I was in a panel once with a bunch of writers, and we got this question: what would you be if you weren't a writer? And one of my friends says, "Oh, I'd be a U.S. senator." I'm like, "Oh, please." I'd be a duvet cover. This is it, folks. This is all I have. And so the fact that, it makes me just want to do it more and that much harder. I don't really have too many hobbies or things I like to do. I like to do this. And this is why this is the exciting part for me. A writer without a reader is a man who claps with one hand. A writer without a reader doesn't really exist. It's the Berkeley tree falling in the woods. If no one's around, does it hear it? No. If no one reads this book, I don't exist as a writer. So this is the fun part for me. This wasn't really a book. Now you take this home and you read it, and Wilde and Hester and Naomi and the rest of these characters come to life in your head different from everybody else's in the entire world. It's a one-on-one thing that you and I have. And that's still so cool to me. That's what drives me after all these years to still write as hard as I can. Okay, what else we got? Here we go. Okay, do I prefer to fully outline your novels before you're writing, or do you like to just jump in and see where the story takes you? This is that outline or pantser question. I guess planner or pantser. I'm a little bit of both. So I know the opening and I know the ending. I know the beginning, I know the end. I compare it to traveling from my home state of New Jersey, where I am right now in quarantine, across the country to LA. I may take Route 80, which is direct road. Chances are I'll stop in Tokyo or go via the Panama Canal, but I always pretty much end up in LA. So I know where the ending is. E.L. Doctorow has my second favorite quote on writing. He says that writing is like driving at night in the fog with just your headlights on. You can only see a little bit ahead of you, but you can make the whole journey that way. What I would add is I know where that journey is going to end. I know a few spots along the road, but I don't really know everything. So like right now, I am writing my next book. I am on 60,000 word mark. It'll probably end up being this one, I guess, usually end up around 100,000. My guess this will be a little bit shorter because it's a different kind of a novel. And each day I'm still trying. I know there's a few places I'm going to be going on this route, but I'm not sure if I'm going to go to them next or a little bit later or what vehicle I'm going to take to get there. And then I'll see a lot of things on the road that will change it and surprise me. And so that's kind of how I do it. Anybody else? Do I see one down here? What am I working on now? Is that a question? Okay, what am I working on now? I'm working on the follow-up to The Stranger. I'm working on what we're going to do next with the same team. I want to keep for another, if we're going to do another season of The Stranger. I don't think so. I think I'd rather do a new story. I'm not big on season twos. So that's not my thing. I'm also working on a new book. You probably are wondering, or not wondering, maybe you're not, but will I tell you what this new book is about? It's my last piece of writing advice to you. The answer is no. I never talk about what I'm writing, and here's why you shouldn't either if you're trying to write. Because I'm dying to tell you what this beautiful story is about. I am dying to. The only way I get that satisfaction is to write it. So if I sit here, or you hear an author sit there and go, blah, 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 oh, my story is about, it's almost like I can watch a balloon losing air. It's like, no. Don't tell me what the story is about. Write it. That's the only way that I can ever know what your story is about. That's the only way you get to have any kind of satisfaction in telling me the story. So do not tell me what the story is about. Do we have one last question, or are we all set? Do I have a favorite book of my own? The Boy from the Woods, now in hardcover or Nook or wherever you want to get it today. So both self-serving and somewhat true. I'll tell you why. The newest book is always my favorite. Again, self-serving. But the reason is, have you ever had like a paper you wrote when you were in college and you look back on it and you go, you find it, you thought it was brilliant, right? And you find it now and you really go, wow, this is crap. It's the same thing with old books. I can see all the seams in the old books. I'm kind of like, what did that stupid kid know from 15, 20 years ago or whatever else? So I always think my new book is my favorite. The other thing is, I may be fooling myself. I do think I'm still trying to get better. I'm still trying. I never try to want to rest on those laurels. I never want to disappoint you. There's so many books you could be buying today. Um, if you're going to spend that kind of money and invest that time, especially now when you're down in quarantine with me, I really, really want it to be the best it can be, or I'll be really disappointed in myself if you don't love it. Boy from the Woods is available 24/7 on barnesandnoble.com. Signed copies while supplies last. Thanks very much. If you have any questions or you ever want to hang, I'm Harlan Coben. That's my Twitter handle. That's my Instagram handle. My Facebook one is Harlan Coben Books. But you can find me any of these sort of places, and I do try to interact as much as possible with you readers. So I want to thank all of you for stopping in and keeping company with me tonight. I'm sorry Laszlo is locked out of the room with my dog. I know a lot of you are big fans of Laszlo's. So next time I'll be sure to bring her. Oh, listen, you're not here. No. I'll be sure to bring her next time. Thanks all very, very much. And thank you, Barnes & Noble. We'll see you all soon.